welcome to our third and final Flip keynote session at our conference. As a reminder, our keynote today will be followed by a Q&A panel session on Thursday, July 28th at 11 a.m. Eastern. As always, I wanted to let you know that this conference and presentation is directly supported by Floop, the feedback-driven learning platform, and Rethinking Schools and City Light Books Assisted in Marketing. Further, we are thankful for our supporters at Human Restoration Project for allowing us to continually serve this community. After Giroux and Jones's keynote, I can say with confidence that the following presentation perfectly illustrates a conference that restores humanity. The Harvest Collegiate Circle Keepers are a youth-led restorative justice program abolishing the school-to-prison pipeline toward collective liberation. They are a group of high school students from Harvest Collegiate High School in New York City who work through conflicts together in a whole school program. And in this keynote, you'll see how they react to conflicts and move through them, committing to restorative practices from simple conflicts to complex issues like white supremacy, racism, sexism, homophobia, and racism. They believe that youth voice is integral, not only for communication, accountability, and insight, but most importantly for achieving true justice for all. The group is organized by Restorative Justice Coordinator Martin Urbach. If you want to learn more what praxis actually looks like, well, here it is. Within this keynote, you'll see the powerful work that youth can do together, and you'll see just how difficult this work is as young people work many additional hours each week to ensure everyone can thrive.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Harvest Collegiate High School's first educational podcast. We are the 10th grade Circle Keepers, and today we will be discussing restorative justice and how it's implemented in our role in the school. Our first question is, what is restorative justice? Maria?
Hi, I'm Maria. I use she, her pronouns, and restorative justice is a form to repair harm and to avoid any future harm, where the offender and the victim are brought together to try to come up with a solution.
So, the next question is, what is a fairness? Henny?
Hi, my name is Henny. My pronouns are he, him. And what a fairness is when two or more students have a conflict. We bring them to the Circle Keepers room and we sit in the round table where we hear how the conflict started, and we hear both sides of the story, and we try to see how we could resolve the conflict in the peacefulest way possible. Would anybody like to add on?
Like Henny said, fairnesses are a very complicated situation. It can involve more than two people. It can be a teacher and a student, and sometimes it doesn't end the best. But then there are other times where it ends very peacefully, and two people come together.
Yeah, and I think that a fairness is just a great way that we are practicing restorative justice, especially since we're trying to restore the harm and build that better communication and build better relationships. It really helps people to harness their way of moving through healthy conflict and dealing with it in the best way possible. Okay, so the next question is, how does restorative justice work in a high school?
Hi, I'm Nick, and restorative justice works in high school by restoring harm that's been done to the community, and by it restores conflict by helping the two parties in the conflict come to an understanding and an agreement about the conflict so it doesn't happen again.
By the school. So, Badra, what is a fairness?
Okay, so a fairness is a process of dialogue and conversation, and it focuses on repairing harm between teachers and teachers, students and teachers, and students and students. So there are a lot of steps and things that are included, so do you want to talk about some of the steps?
It starts with the introduction, and the supervisor introduces the group and explains the basic ground rules, including openness, following protocol, and confidentiality. The facilitator gives an overview of the protocol, and there's a taker who is the person who called for the fairness, and they explain what happened and why they feel like it affected them or harmed them. And then the take-in, who's the person that was brought to the fairness, explains their side of the story. And then the panel, maybe multiple people, has a facilitator and co-facilitators. They ask questions about what happened to try to come to some sort of consensus about what restorative action should be taken and why the taker feels harmed and how to resolve the issue. All members of the fairness must come to a consensus about what restorative actions are appropriate, and this might be a structured apology, research project, community service, but it most importantly has to have changed behavior towards the community.
Now, how do we prepare to facilitate fairnesses, Basha?
Okay, so usually the way that we prepare to facilitate fairnesses usually involves prepping the taker and the taken. So we'll talk to the taker. Usually if it's like a teacher, we'll tell them why are you bringing them here, what is this involved, and then we'll talk to the taken and kind of see their side of the story. And then we usually just like send out, logistically, we send out a Google Calendar alert, make sure all the facilitators in the meeting know what it's about, know what's going to happen, and kind of just like do a rundown. So usually preparing a fairness just involves letting everyone who's participating in it know why we're here and what it all is.
Ready? Okay. Hi, welcome to our mock fairness. Today we will be doing a fairness between a teacher and two students about these two students that aren't in the classroom and are roaming the halls and not up to date on their schoolwork. Sarah will be playing the teacher, and Brianna and Tyrone will be playing the students. And Nico is going to start off our fairness with the norms.
So for our fairness, this is a phone-free zone, so put your phones away. Keep confidentiality, so don't talk about what happens in the circle outside of the circle. And just be open and honest, and just be open to what other people are saying.
We also will be using the talking piece, and just make sure that you're using I statements instead of saying like you did this and such. So yeah. Okay, so first we're going to start off with the teacher point of view, and then I'll let you two speak.
So yeah, I brought you guys to this fairness because I feel disrespected when anybody goes out in the hall and doesn't come back, or and I care about you guys' education, and I just feel disrespected.
Yeah, please.
One mic.
Yeah, one mic. When you don't have the talking piece, just stay quiet. Continue. Okay. So I'll do a say back. Okay, so what I'm hearing Sarah say is that she feels really disrespected when you guys don't come back to class, and she really cares about your education. So you're ruining it by being in the hallway all the time and not keeping up with your work. How do you guys feel? You go first. There you go. Okay. Go first. The question is, basically, how do you feel about, or why are you in the hallway so much? Why aren't you up to date on your work? Do you understand how your teacher's feeling about you?
Alright, so the reason why I'm in the hallway so much because class, like sometimes I get bored and it's nothing to do.
Okay. Do you understand like what your teacher is saying and how it may affect her?
Yeah.
I'm in the hallway because it's hard for me to focus in class sometimes. And then I get distracted and just don't come back. That was the question.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you two say is, one, that Tyrone feels like the class may get boring for him, so he likes to be in the hallway as like a distraction and like just something that can, I guess, entertain him. And what I'm hearing Brianna say is that sometimes she needs a break, and when she takes those breaks, she ends up being distracted by her friends that are also in the hallway. So that tends for her not to be coming back to class.
So maybe from what I'm hearing, Sarah, could you talk about maybe why your class might be boring and how you can help?
Or a better way of saying that is, like, could you find, or do you see how Tyrone may feel like bored in your class, or do you think that there's any way you can work with him so that he wants to be in your class?
Yeah, I do get that. Like, school isn't always like super fun all the time. But I do want to make it fun for you guys. If you guys do feel super bored, I want to make it not as boring. And I also just want to make sure I give you guys breaks, but hopefully you respect those breaks and come back so we can get back to class. But yeah, we can discuss. You guys can talk about things that can make class more fun.
Okay, so yeah, we can hear how you guys may think like the class, or how you think the class could improve so that you're more interested in what's going on. And also, like, from you, Bree, maybe like she wants to give you those breaks, but as you said, like, those breaks tend to you being out in the hallway longer than expected. So how is she able to give you that, but also know that you're going to come back to do your work? Which one do we want to start first? Okay, Bree. Bree, he started first.
I don't remember the question.
I just asked you, okay, so I asked you, your teacher said that she wants to give you breaks, but as you said, you like don't come back when you're given those breaks. So how can you, or what will help you stay in class and also be able to get like a 5-minute break?
I cannot move around on my breaks, like I can stay in front of the class, so I don't run into my friends.
Okay. Are you also feeling like, do you also feel like your class,
It's boring.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so both of you are saying that, so pass to Tyrone, and I want to hear, like, what do you think can help you make the class?
You asked me.
What do you like? What do you think? Like, well,
What do you want from the
what do
class?
you want from the class to make it
fun?
like make you feel engaged?
You gotta ask the teacher that. I mean, you just gotta like do acting projects. I say projects.
So
Hands-on
more
projects,
engaging projects, hands-on.
moving around, so I don't need as many friends.
Okay, so now that we've talked about it as like to why you guys are in the hallway so much and like why your work isn't getting done, I'm hearing that you guys are feeling bored in your classes and you're being distracted because you're in the hallways with your friends because you want to be in class. So what do you think could be a good restorative action to you guys being in class more and being engaged in your work?
I mean, for me, on my part, I'll communicate with you guys more and take your ideas into account when assigning projects and assigning any sort of assignment to make it a little more fun.
Do you guys agree with that? Are you okay with that? Okay, great. So the restorative action that we have decided is that your teacher will communicate more with you guys, try and understand you more, and maybe incorporate some more engaging and moving around activities so that you guys are engaged in your work and interested. Okay, good. My question, I'm not sure if I introduced myself, my name is Ryan, she, her pronouns, is why do we do this work? I think the main reason why us as Circle Keepers do this work is just because we have a love for our community and a love for building our community and helping out other people. We can see the impact and maybe like the fails that we go through as Circle Keepers, but ultimately we can see that those rare moments, or most of the time we see when people are actually listening to what we have to say and really opening themselves to the process of restorative justice, and we're just seeing better forms of communication in some kids that have done horrible with communication in the past. We're learning more about ourselves and other people, and we're just doing all this work so that we can see it in our school and see it in other schools, and working so that everyone has the opportunity to have this in their school. Like Amber said, we're trying to move away from the zero tolerance policy and move towards understanding and really talking to these kids. Okay, Danny, if you were to give advice to students that don't have access to RJ in their schools, what would you tell them?
Hi, my name is Daniela, pronouns she, her, and to students who don't have RJ in their schools, and some advice I would give them would just be, if you have a conflict and you want to resolve it, go to that person personally, talk it out with them, tell them how you feel, hear them out about how they feel, and just think of ways that could better the situation. If you truly don't want to keep contact or further resolve it, then okay, leave it be. But I would just say have patience, be sympathetic, and think about how everyone feels in that situation and how it's affecting everyone else outside of you guys. Just have a lot of patience and sympathy for everyone.
Welcome everyone. Today we'll be doing the Understanding the Impacts of Gossip Circle. I'm your facilitator, Daniela, pronouns she, her, and we'll go around introducing ourselves.
Hi, I'm Maria, she, her.
I'm John Aaron, he, him.
I'm Tyler, she, her.
I'm Nash, she, her.
So I'll be asking a series of questions and you must answer honestly and just give your input. So the first question is, why do people gossip?
I think people gossip because it gives them a sense that they have secrets or information about others and it makes them feel powerful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with us. I just feel like, I don't know, I wouldn't say like a coping mechanism or something, but like, I would just say it's just fun to do.
I feel like when people gossip, I don't think they know they're gossiping until they're, called out on it. So, yes.
I think people gossip when they feel bored.
I would say people gossip as a sense of, like Ness said, power, and it's just like, it's something to talk about, something new happening in school rather than you just always doing work. So news is always something fun for kids. The second question is, what are the differences between spreading rumors and gossiping?
Gossiping is talking about someone or like a lot of people, and rumors is spreading false information.
Yes, I definitely agree. Rumors is definitely spreading false information about a person that's definitely not true, and gossiping is just talking and spreading the news about what is true.
I feel like they can both be the same depending on who you're asking, the content of the situation. Because spreading rumors is kind of the same thing of kind of just gossip. It's just a game of telephone that you tell many people. So yeah.
I think rumors is when you spread, when you make up something you're not very sure of. And gossiping is when you are telling other people about something else that you are sure of. It's about someone else.
Everyone basically said what rumors and gossiping is. So we'll move on to the third question. What are the differences between spreading, it's the same thing, never mind. You could cut that part, Martin. The final question is, how do you think rumors affect the person that's involved?
It could definitely be like really like damaging. It can also lead people to like depression and suicide, and I just feel like it's really messed up because most of the rumors and gossip usually happens from someone you thought you were good friends with, so you also like feel betrayed.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it brings down their character and it makes them feel some type of way as a person, and it makes them like rethink who they are, and sometimes it like changes people like the way they do things after they have rumors about them and stuff. So, yeah.
I feel like how gossip affects a person who is involved in it. It makes people look at them differently, makes people feel uneasy around them, it kind of creates tension around those two people or whoever's involved. So yeah.
I think gossiping really affects someone mentally because they start to, like Ness said, feel betrayed, and they're not sure who they can trust, and then they start to feel alone, and then, yeah.
Similar to what everyone's saying, spreading rumors about someone can affect them in many ways, physically, mentally, emotionally. It kind of gives them a sense that you can't necessarily go around school without people, thinking differently of you than they used to think. it does really attack the mental, because it's like, dang, I have all these people against me. How am I supposed to prove them when it's all these people against one? So it definitely affects them in any situation, any environment.
So Amber, what are some differences between restorative justice and punitive justice?
The difference between punitive and restorative justice is that punitive justice, there's only a victim and a perpetrator, and there's no room to really talk about it. Rather, with restorative justice, you come face to face with the person you have harmed, and there's room to redeem yourself. Ness, what is a mediation?
Mediation can be structured in different ways depending on the mediation. So, for example, at Harvest, we do facilitative mediation, which is basically like fairnesses, and we also do mentor mediation, which is like students counseling other students.
Like, have you ever fought in school? Like, what's your history with that?
I never fought nobody, like, ever. People just like running their mouth to me, but never want to like started like, oh, like they started an issue, but they never like want to throw hands. Shania fought in school. She also got transferred from a school to this school because she got into a fight.
I got into 4 fights in my old school. Crazy, but of course I won because, you know, yeah, I'm like that.
Just got them.
But I definitely did bitches on the floor, but shot. But yeah, so I did here.
Okay, Avery, when you were saying that they were running their mouth, then you never fought, they were running their mouth, that's considered beefing. So how did that situation happen and how did it escalate? No names.
People are just like, they'll argue over social media. And it's like, you're arguing with yourself because I would never open the message. Like, if you're beefing with me in person and we're going back and forth, then, but you're beefing over the internet, I'm not going to text you back. I'm not going to give you the time of day to argue back with me. You're going to say something, I'm going to be like, okay. You're going to say something, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm just not going to beef back with you on the internet. I'll beef back with you in person, but not over the internet, never that.
So, you're saying if people like fight with you, but
people have the most energy on the internet than in person.
Okay, but you said that fighting doesn't solve problems.
No.
What do you think solves problems? At the end of the day,
Nothing.
what's gonna solve the problem?
Nothing. Once you have beef with somebody, you have beef with somebody. You can't stop the beef unless y'all both come to a you know.
So Sarah, have you ever had a fairness not go as well as you would like it to?
Yeah, basically the guidelines that you were talking about were not followed by the 2 people there. It wasn't taken seriously by them, and they were using their phones and just kind of being disrespectful in general. And you could really tell that they weren't engaged with any of the prompts or the questions they were asked. And yeah, it was basically just like disrespect, and they didn't want to be there. You could tell they didn't want to be there.
Alexis, what are the qualities that it takes to be a young restorative justice leader?
It takes a strong individual who can easily connect with people and make conversation with anyone. The qualities a strong restorative justice leader has are creativity, awareness, and knowledge, and understanding, and of course a sense of humor.
Thank you. Alexis, what is something that you like the most about being a young restorative justice leader in our school?
I love that I can find people who I can easily connect with and make conversation with, and they make me feel like I belong in a space.
As a group, we read the first chapter of The Little Book of RJ by Howard Zerr called An Overview. What I learned was that the Western legal system has profoundly shaped our thinking about these issues within the criminal justice system. The Western legal criminal justice system had its important strengths, but also its failures. People often felt that the justice didn't adequately meet their needs, and within those people, I say victims, offenders, and community members, and justice professionals that were actually doing this work. Restorative justice was an attempt to address some of the needs and limitations that they couldn't meet, and it was considered a sign of hope and direction for the future within the criminal violence that was happening. Restorative approaches were available in the most severe forms of criminal violence, such as assault, rape, and even murder. The approaches of restorative justice has been able to reach schools, workplaces, and religious institutions. The Western legal system has replaced the traditional justice with an alternative, has replaced and or has the alternative of restorative justice to traditional justice, and restorative justice has been the framework for thinking about wrongdoings.
Okay, yeah, and also I read that in this little book of restorative justice, he kind of starts it off talking about what restorative justice isn't, because there are a lot of misconceptions about it. So the first key point that I took away is that restorative justice is not primarily about forgiveness or reconciliation. A lot of times people think that to engage in a restorative justice act, you have to apologize or there has to be some sort of formal structural apology, and that's simply not true. Even though that can be how things end, there's no pressure to choose or forgive or seek reconciliation. So the next point that I took away is that restorative justice is not mediation. Mediation is restorative justice, or is a form of restorative justice. And that we say that because a lot of times people connotate mediations with a level playing field and simply just conversing, but in reality it can be for more intense situations such as burglaries or rape, and that's why we don't say that RJ is just mediations. Another key point I took away is that restorative justice isn't just about minor offenses or things that are like small, like taking a candy from a baby. Like it can be for big things like Ryan was talking about, burglaries, rapes, domestic violence. And the last thing that I want to touch on is that victims' needs should be addressed in restorative justice, and offenders should be encouraged to take responsibility so that harm can be repaired.
To add on to Ryan, I read about how the Western criminal justice system doesn't address the needs of the victims, and it has legal limitations, and victims need to be able to heal and have more of an understanding of the offender, and they need to be able to heal from trauma that they have experienced. Otherwise, the system is just failing, and this is why restorative justice needs to be implemented into the criminal justice system. Restorative justice isn't a replacement for the criminal justice system. There will still be prison sentences, but it is an alternative to be able to heal and have better understanding of victims and offenders.
So my takeaway was more about when he talks about the offender side of restorative justice, because restorative justice does not just cater to the victim, but it also caters to people who have done harm, the offenders, and growth and accountability. Usually the actions taken are punitive, and it's more centered around alienation, taking the problem away, like literally ignoring the problem and taking it away from this situation. And he talks about how this doesn't help anybody. It literally just ignores the problem. And if restorative justice has brought an awareness of the limits and negative byproducts of punishment, and real accountability involves facing up to what the person has done instead of just taking them away from the problem.
I would like to add on to what Sarah said, that when you involve a community into the work of RJ, the community itself gets better and the work of RJ gets better. Judges say that it's better when you take away the state from works when involved with an offender and an offended, because the community members get to be involved and get to put in their point of views of what's going on in their communities.
Restorative principles are a set of common rules that help you right your wrongdoings. They help you make amends with the people that you have harmed and build community, and they let you come face to face with the person you've harmed so that you can redeem yourself, and it also implies how you are willing to help your community.
I feel like restorative justice definitely, the only way that it can work is if you give the person time. Because I feel like in the moment you'll say whatever to make that person feel bad, like how you feel bad. But if a person gets time to think about what they did, or even time to talk with the other person about the problem, a solution can be resolved and things can change.
Hi, Daniela. Today we're going to be talking about Robert Yazzi's article from 1994 called Life Comes From It, and that's around the Navajo justice concepts. So the Navajo justice concepts speak a lot about vertical justice systems as opposed to horizontal justice systems. How would you define the concept of the vertical justice system?
The vertical justice system is basically a system where there's someone at the top, usually the judge when it comes to the criminal justice system, and everyone under them has to follow as they say. It's very led into hierarchy. So if you have the top row, that's you. You're at the top. You command everyone, and it basically goes by levels. So you usually have like attorneys under and the jury under them, and the people who are at the bottom, like the offenders and the victims.
So we're talking about like vertical, like because like the judge is at the top, right? Judge has like the most power, and like in your opinion, who has like the most power after the judge?
I would say the people under the judge would be like the lawyers and everything, like police officers and stuff like that, because they take charge and how the case runs, and basically who gets to say what and who's involved in it.
Right, but also like the jurors, right? Like the jury, like oftentimes like you have like the jury, like you have like the judge, then you have like the jury, then you have like the lawyers, then you may have like the DA, right? Then you may actually, like you said, like have the police officers, and then all the way at the bottom might be like the defendants, right? Like 1, 2, or like as many defendants. And so that's why the Navajo consider that as like the vertical justice system. But how about talk to us a little bit about the horizontal justice system and why the Navajo folks consider it as horizontal?
The people consider the horizontal justice system as like the way they want to deal with criminals, because it's kind of like a circle. Everyone is on the same level, they have the same authority, they have the same power. Everyone's voice is heard, whereas with the vertical, it's only you hear one person's voice and everyone has to agree with it. Whereas horizontal, it's like everyone is on equal terms, and everyone has a say, everyone has a word in it. So if you feel like this should be done, everyone has to take it into consideration, and one person isn't above. I feel like that actually helps get down to the root of many problems, because if we don't hear where the offender and the victim are coming from, it's basically just like, oh, the offender did this, that's it, they get jail time. So yeah.
So the Navajo folks consider the justice system based on solidarity, right? They say like solidarity is essential for healing injustice, right? So they say that language is a key to the law, and those who share common understandings of values and emotions actually can get through issues together. So the Navajo asked us to think, when we're talking about justice, about this concept of solidarity, but also this concept of kinship, right? Like, who are we family to, right? Like, who's my family? How am I in relation to this other person? So Daniela, knowing that the Navajo are asking us to consider solidarity as really like key terms for justice and for healing, how do you think that affects the way that you move as a restorative justice practitioner?
I would say when the Navajo people move with solidarity, it makes me kind of think of like I have to move in a way that I'm hearing everyone out, I'm on like good terms with everyone, because if you're moving with solidarity, then you know you're on equal terms with everyone. Everyone's kind of like family, so it's like you will hear them out no matter what. And in restorative justice, that's what we're all about. We're all about hearing people out, and we move with kindness and caring and willingness. So I feel that you have to remove all types of biases. You have to remove kind of like everything that you do as a restorative justice leader and kind of follow as they do, because their way of bringing justice for people is very different to how many others do it. So yeah.
And the concept of solidarity doesn't necessarily mean that like you have to be friends or best friends or BFFs, or even like you don't have to agree with what everybody says, but solidarity is about working in a common goal, right? So it's like you can have that understanding of the common goal being we want peace or actually healing injustice without seeing eye to eye on everything.
Hello, my name is John Aaron. Today we're in the circle to be talking about homophobic comments in school. But before we start, I'd like to go over a few ground rules. Number 1 is to respect the talking piece. Number 2 is this is a phone-free zone. Can't be using your phones. And number 3 is confidentiality. Whatever is said in the circle stays in the circle. I'm going to be passing it to Amber to start this off.
Thank you. So the first opening prompt is, how would you define homophobia?
So I'd say homophobia is a dislike of gay people and people that are scared of the LGBTQ community.
I would say it's discrimination towards people who are the LGBTQ community.
I agree with Drew. I think it's discriminating towards those who are part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Homophobia is the open bias against people based on their sexuality and their identity.
What is an example of homophobia you've witnessed or experienced in school?
Well, I've seen a lot of people have a negative connotation behind, like gay, like they say like, oh, that's gay, or like stuff like that.
In our school, I witnessed like people saying like the F slur or like really homophobic slurs to people, like as an insult to like their friends.
Well, early in the semester, I didn't really pay attention to people's pronouns in the beginning, and I accidentally called like a dude her by accident, and I kind of like, I was like really upset afterwards because he did come up to me after class and like told me that he goes by him now, and I was apologizing because I felt really bad.
Okay, so I've seen people treat people of the LGBTQ plus community different openly than others, and like they said, I've seen them call like each other slurs and stuff.
How is homophobia normalized in our society? And the person speaking mentioned.
Well, oftentimes people use gay as like a negative insult, and it's like there's no problem with being gay. So I feel like people should like be comfortable with their sexuality without being judged.
I think that homophobic language and actions happen so frequently, and people grow up thinking that it's okay, so they say it as if it's not a big deal, but it actually has a big effect on a community.
It affects like in our society, like those like small little comments and stuff like really cause harm to people, and it can trigger people, so just doing that in our society.
Okay. At least for me, at least in my friend group, we say, like when we make jokes and it might come off weird or wrong in some type of way, we might say no homo or like no gay shit. That's kind of how we talk, and that kind of contributes to homophobia because it's we act like it's a wrong thing to be and a wrong thing to act like. And if someone was gay or part of the LGBTQ community in our group, it kind of put them down. So, and that is something that we do around the school, at least in my friend group, and that's something that kind of contributes to homophobia in the school.
When you witness a homophobic comment, how do you deal with it?
Okay, so when I witness a homophobic comment, I'm not gonna lie, usually I don't really speak up, but that doesn't mean I don't feel a type of way about the language that people use towards that group of people. I think as a minority myself and the LGBT community being a group that is targeted also, it kind of makes me feel bad, and I think it does lead to like me having conversations with my friends that do experience that, or people that have that same mindset as like people that use this language towards them.
When I like witness people like getting targeted like that, I usually like stick up for them as a person of that community. I know how that feels because I've also experienced it, and I know that having someone there to stick up for you or like be on your side feels like good to have someone
there. When I witness a homophobic comment, either like it can be like if it's a post or if it's like something in person being said, I either say something, obviously it's not okay to say something that's like, you know, it's either not physically harming somebody, but mentally maybe it can be harming them, so you never know what you're saying can be harming someone.
When I witness like a homophobic comment, I try my best to like correct the person that's making the comment, and although like sometimes in like public, like I can't really speak up since most likely I would hear it from like an adult, so like I do what I can, but it does make me upset like when I hear it from other people.
Alright, thank you so much everyone for being here. Just remember the confidentiality, keep what was said here.
For my advice, I think I'd advise them to get 4 or 5 trusted people that you think would be good in a restorative justice position and make a group of that.
I think if you want to do it, you should go for it. You gotta make sure that it's not too overwhelming.
Yeah, make sure to just get involved with your school and like speak up, raise your voice.
For me, I would probably recommend to talk to a teacher, which is a restorative justice ally.
Yeah, I agree with what Henny said. Like, just branch out to people in the school and see what's going on and what you can do to involve yourself more.
I'd say make sure that you set yourself up to have patience, because a lot of the work you do is involving other people, whether it's students or teachers, and a lot of the work you do, like we said earlier, academically, it has a toll, so you have to be patient with yourself and be patient with other people around you so that you can get the job done.
I would really make sure that you know, like within yourself, what you can and cannot do, because it's really important that you set those boundaries for yourself so that you're able to be there for others but also be there for yourself.
To add on to everyone else, I would definitely say like going to people who are already within the restorative justice community and just asking for advice, going to talk to them about what you'll be doing in the future, and just like having patience, like Macho said, and you know, being willing to open up to all the work you will get, because it is a lot more work. So just like having that time and energy and motivation to pursue what you can do.
Yeah, I would say some advice that I would have is being able to communicate. That's something really important. Being able to communicate with your community, your teachers, and even the people you work with. And something else is something that I'm struggling with as well, is being able to ask for help. It is okay to ask for help. And this work is a lot and draining, so asking for help won't make you seem weak, it'll make you like stronger.
I would say like researching restorative justice and like talking and like, you know, like having some background knowledge as to like, you know, like the fundamental things that you need in restorative justice, and also like asking people who are in the community.